Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the NordCast. It is Wednesday, August 6th, 2025. I'm your host here, Nord97, joined with Kata and just Carter for today. Carter, how we doing?
No, we're doing pretty good. Just came back from a little vacation.
Yeah,
That was
almost fell backwards. How was that good old, how was Halifax or wherever the hell you went?
yeah. So I went to the East Coast, flew into Halifax, and did like a little road trip. Just kind of around that area. Explored all of Nova Scotia for the most part. Went to Prince Edward Island. Took a ferry. We put like the cars like on the ferry boat. And we took the boat like across to PEI.
Have you been on a ferry before?
Well, no, I've been on a ferry, but I've never been on one where it's like, you put your car on it. Where am I supposed to do that here in Winnipeg?
Yeah, you got a good point.
Right?
Biggest lake you got is probably
I don't know. I don't know if it's Lake Manitoba, Lake Winnipeg. Actually, I guess we got like the Churchill, like up north, whatever. Winnipeggers don't know what I'm talking about. You honestly couldn't give less of a shit. So I don't know why I'm bothering. No, but it was a lot of fun. Went to New Brunswick as well, and it was a lot different from what I kind of imagined it being. But it was a good time. I am a little upset that I didn't get to go fishing though, because I really would have loved to have done like some ocean fishing, because that would have been an absolute blast. But I'm back. I'm here. I'm back into the real world of getting up at 5 a.m. to get ready for work. So today was an absolute struggle, to say the least.
Yeah, I believe that. When did you get back?
Yesterday. I came back at like 5 o'clock yesterday. My plane landed, so it was like I got home and I was like just drained. But hung out with the girlfriend for a bit, and then kind of just went to bed because plane.
Yeah, we got back from our little event on Saturday or Sunday. So
where'd you go?
So we went up to Cadence's grandparents for a week, or not really a week. It was a couple of days, and then we came home. And then, like literally the day after we came home, we're like, "Oh, get in a car," and we were off to Wildwood, New Jersey for the weekend. So
nice.
Yeah, I mean, for people who have been to Wildwood, they will know like the boardwalk and stuff. Like, it's a walk, first of all, and obviously
put your steps in, man.
Yeah, well, the first day, and I have to pull this up, just people probably won't believe me. The first day it was cloudy, so we're just like, probably no beach today, and it ended up being a no beach day. So we just walked the boardwalk for literally, like, we got there at like 11 a.m. We walked to like 11 p.m. Like, we walked like 12 hours, like, up and down the boardwalk. I swear, we walked it like 10 times. I'm looking at my steps because my steps were unbelievable that day. So the first day, which was the whole cloudy day, we walked 12.3 miles.
Damn.
Yeah, I know. And then we walked almost 32,000 steps, which is just unreal. The next day we walked like 11 miles too. It was absolutely wild. So yeah, that was my weekend. We're actually going back down tomorrow for the final time this summer. And then after that, it's back to getting ready for the series previews and back to the off-season. So you know how it is, I guess. Yeah. Let's hop into what we actually want to talk about here today with our Metropolitan Off-Season review. We're going to go through the 8 teams, talk about the trades, the signings, and all the stuff in between involving all of those teams in the Metropolitan Division. Starting off with the Carolina Hurricanes, who made some notable moves. They started off, and I'm going to talk about the trades first and foremost. They started off by acquiring K'Andre Miller from the Rangers in exchange for Scott Morrow, a first and a second round pick in next year's draft. I believe the first round pick is top 10 protected. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I would assume it is. But yeah, a little bit of an interesting deal. Like, I like Miller. I feel like he's going to fit really well into Carolina's system. But at the same time, I'm like, you gave up Scott Morrow, who played playoff games this year for Carolina and was not terrible. And then you also gave up a first and a second round pick as well. Now, I know they have 2 firsts because they have Dallas's first as well, but oh my God. Like, I just don't get the return on that. I like the player. I don't get the return.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's, kind of fair. I mean, yeah, K'Andre Miller is one of those guys that you can't really get like a good read on like how good he is as a player, because he's either really good sometimes or he's just like not super noticeable, right? So I do think that he's a good player. He's only 25 years old, and like this team is pretty much hovering at around that like average age of like 28 or whatever. So he kind of comes in under that. So I mean, not a bad player to add. I think that, as you said, he'll fit in great in that system, which I do agree with. I think that, he'll definitely help that left side that's already like pretty stacked with Slavin and Gossesbear. Now you add Miller, right? So I think that definitely helps, the left side of that back end to just be an absolute monster. Like, I think they should have tried to address maybe going out and getting a right defenseman to kind of help pair with Slavin. I think that might have been a little bit better, but it's very hard to find right shot D-man right now, I guess. So if Keandre Miller's your guy, you go out and get him and you just kind of see what you can do with him. But I don't mind the move. I don't mind it.
Well, I think we're forgetting about Nikishin there as well, who's going to come in and play a full-time role this year. So that's interesting for sure. I really do think that Miller is going to fit in well under this Carolina system, and I don't think people are really prepared for that. Like, everybody saw how he was with the Rangers and was just like, oh, he's a bum. He's not that good. Nah, he stinks. I feel like under Carolina's system where they play that kind of hockey, I think Keandre Miller is going to fit in well, especially alongside some defensemen who are, first off, veterans in the NHL and have played way longer than Miller. So I think that's a big factor there as well. In terms of signings, the Hurricanes didn't do a lot in terms of like actually bringing in players besides Nikolai Ehlers, who was signed by Carolina to a 6-year, $8.5 million cap hit. Carter, if you want to speak on Ehlers here, your boy from Winnipeg, how is he going to impact this Carolina lineup?
He's going to help that lineup a lot. I think looking at kind of their top unit now of Ehlers, Aho, and Jarvis, I mean, that is a great first line right there. Not a bad kind of salary that he comes in at. $8.5 million is not too bad for Nikolai Ehlers at all, especially with the cap situation. But I mean, he's going to provide so much speed, and he has like genuinely one of the most underrated shots in the NHL. He's so good. He has that goal scoring touch. So it sucks. It's going to suck seeing him in a different jersey for the first time, but man, he is going to open up the door for Sebastian Aho and Seth Jarvis, which Seth Jarvis I'm going to get into a little bit later because I want to put a take out there at some point. So before we move on from Carolina, we're going to come back to it.
Okay. So Carolina also they made a couple of other moves. They signed Mike Riley. They re-signed Tyson Jost. Apart from that, they mostly re-signed just some depth players, Skyler Brindamore, Ryan Suzuki, a couple other guys like that. But they also re-signed Logan Stankoven and Jackson Blake, two of their young players who played games for them this past year. Stankoven was acquired by Carolina in the Rantanen trade. Blake was a pick a couple of years ago. Both of them 22 and 21 respectively. Stankoven was signed to an 8-year, $6 million contract, I believe. So that's actually a very good deal for Stankoven. I think that there's plenty of upside there with him, and he could become a consistent 60, 70-point scorer or even better than that. So getting him at $6 million for 8 seasons is pretty damn phenomenal. So that's good cap circumvention, good cap management there by the Hurricanes. And then they also signed Jackson Blake to an 8-year, $5.1 million contract, which there's some risk in there with that, but I'm a personal big fan of Blake, so I think that deal is going to work out very well. Those are two players, a part of their really young core, locked up long-term for relatively cheap. So what do you think about those guys and that young core that Carolina's just kind of building there or has there already, and how these contracts are going to help them in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of saw a lot from Logan Stankoven, enough to really just, show us who he is. I mean, when he was with Dallas, I mean, he was always a guy that everyone was kind of interested in, and he had some hype around him, but just couldn't really I don't want to say couldn't really figure it out because he was really good. But he was more of like an assist guy. He was thrown into like a third line kind of role, wasn't really given, these goal scoring opportunities, which Logan Stankoven has. But now he's being given a shot on the second line where he's going to be playing with Kotkaniemi and Svechnikov. So, I mean, that's going to really help him. And I mean, you look at him in the Eastern Conference Final Series, I think outside of probably like Aho and like Slavin, he was one of their best players. Like
Agreed.
he looked very good, very comfortable in the playoffs. So I think that Logan Stankoven is going to be a great, he's definitely going to be a great signing. I love that for him. $6 million, that's huge for Carolina, especially with them being a market that, not a lot of people particularly want to go to, which is rich for me saying it because Nikolai Ehlers went there, but that's besides the point. But it allows them to maybe overpay for some players who are like, I don't really want to go to Carolina, like all these other things. But it's like, well, here, we'll give you an extra $200,000 because Stankoven took a discount instead of waiting and taking like a bridge deal and then screwing them for $12 million if he gets to that point, right? So yeah. I really like the Logan Stankoven contract. Now with Jackson Blake, I think that this is a good risk to reward contract, in my opinion. I mean, you look at him this year, he put up 34 points through 80 games as a 21-year-old. Now, that's not something to like open your eyes at and be like, whoa, that's unbelievable. But it's enough to kind of say like, you know what? This is a guy who is 21 years old, playing on one of the best teams in the Metro, one of the best teams in Carolina, and he's getting meaningful minutes and he's putting up meaningful points. I mean, if you lock this guy up for $5 million right now off of just this year, again, some people are going to call it a stupid signing and all this other stuff, right? But you look at a guy like Cole Perfetti, he's looking at a bridge deal of $5 million. Well, when he was 21, he put up 38 points in 71 games with Winnipeg Jets, right? And now he's doing bridge deals for $5 million. He put up 50 points last year and could probably break out again this year and put up 60. And now the Jets are like, oh, great. Well, now we got to pay this guy, I don't know, $8 million for the next 7-8 years, right? So it puts the Jets in a bit of a pickle. But if Jackson Blake goes like the Cole Perfetti route, let's say he puts up 50 this next year, then puts up 60, and then he's just a consistent 60-point guy for $5 million, you'll take that all day long. So I think I like the signing. I think the risk to reward is pretty good. And with how kind of the NHL is kind of progressing, paying Jackson Blake to be a third line goal scorer, $5 million when the cap's going to be $115 million is not going to kill your team.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I love the two re-signings.
Yeah. So before we get into your little Jarvis take, what would you grade Carolina's offseason? I think they made like the Miller deal. I'm not a fan of like what they gave up, but I think like it's. I don't know if it's worth it. We really can't judge that, but I think that they definitely needed a player like Miller, and I think that again, getting Ehlers and obviously signing those two guys to very good cap deals, I think it's worthy of an A. I'm going to give it an A- though, just because of the return on that deal. You might think differently, but I think to be honest with you, they had an A- offseason for me.
Yeah, I mean, based on the Miller trade, I'd probably put it at like an A-, but I mean, they had so many other things that were pretty good in my opinion. Like they signed their goaltender, who's their starter, for under $3 million. And then as I kind of went on my tangent about Stankoven and Blake, I think that those re-signings are going to be absolutely money for them. So as well as adding Ehlers to provide some speed to help get their top two players outside of like Ehlers and Slavin and all those guys, right? Giving them a little bit more room and a little bit more space to work with the puck. I think that that's really going to help them. So I'll give them an A on their off season. I think that they did very well for what they have. And I mean, man, they still have $10 million in cap space to work with right now. So I think this is going to be a very interesting season for the Carolina Hurricanes. I would expect them to make some sort of move here around the trade deadline and go after a star player, because as we heard the entire start of the offseason, Carolina wants a superstar. And if one comes available, around trade deadline, don't be shocked to see Carolina's name completely in the mix because they also still have those first round picks. They still have those picks. So we'll see what Carolina does.
So what is your Seth Jarvis take that you want to share with the world?
Yeah, so after I kind of texted it to the group chat, I was like, hey, that's kind of like outrageous. But Seth Jarvis has back-to-back 67-point seasons. This last year, he had played 8 less games, put the same amount of points. He was probably due for his first 70-plus season. Seth Jarvis is going to score 40 goals and be a point-per-game player this year, barring injury.
40 goals and a point per game?
I think that looking at how Nikolai Ehlers is going to open up space for Aho and Seth, I think that it's going to be perfect for him. I think that the speed that they gain with Nikolai Ehlers compared to Svechnikov or whoever else was on that left side, Taylor Hall, if it was him at some points, I can't fully remember. But it's so much different, and it's going to put so much attention on Ehlers and take less attention away from Jarvis, who's very good at creeping into open spaces and just firing the puck off his stick as soon as it's on. He has an absolutely wicked shot. I've been watching it all summer, and it's unbelievable to watch. So it's a little biased, but at the same time, he has a ridiculous shot.
You make a good argument. We'll have to see. Maybe I'll put a post on Instagram, see what the fans think about that, but not a horrible take in my opinion. Let's move on from Carolina now. We spent about like 20 minutes on them. We won't spend as much time on the other teams, unfortunately.
Until we get to Philly.
Yeah, until we get to Philly. We'll probably spend a couple time with Philly. But we're moving on now to the Columbus Blue Jackets, who made their fair share of moves as well. Started with the only trade that was notable. They acquired Charlie Coyle and Miles Wood from the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for Gavin Brindley and a second and a third in the next 2 drafts. Interesting trade. Again, I said my piece on the Central Division, which was last episode, that I was not a fan of this deal from Columbus's perspective. I'm still not. Like this basically just looked like a cap dump for a decent prospect. I think that definitely Coyle and Wood will probably fit in more as an immediate impact role. Those are going to be guys who fit in there on your bottom 6. But at the same time, you're losing $7.75 million in cap space. So I think, again, maybe it goes both ways, but I don't know. I really wasn't that big of a fan of that trade, if you want to throw in your thoughts there a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, giving up on Gavin Brindley's not one that I'm too fond of from a Columbus perspective. I mean, they were in the realm of a rebuild, and I think they tried to jump the gun a little too quickly. I think they went a little too quick into the process or not a little too quick. I think they kind of just skipped a bit of the process and tried to get there fast. I'm worried that last year was a fluke. And if it was and which I do believe it kind of was, I don't think Charlie Coyle and Miles Wood are going to push them over the edge this year. Last year, would they have helped? Probably. They might have helped, and maybe that fluke of a season would have given them a playoff berth. I don't see that happening again. You traded away a promising prospect at 20 years old, a 3rd-round pick, which was in this year, which, I mean, it's a 3rd-round pick, I guess, but a 2nd-round pick in 2027 for 1 year of Charlie Coyle and 3 years of 29-year-old Miles Wood. Yeah. And you gave up a promising 20-year-old player to do so. I don't understand it fully. I think that this might have been a stupid decision on Columbus's part. I think they should have just stuck it out for 1 more year. I get it. A lot of your guys are a little bit older, but if you take a look, your core for the future is still young. Fantilli's 20 years old. Johnson's 22. Sillinger's 22. Voronkov looked good last year, right? I mean, there's so many guys. Denton Machaychuk, 21 years old, right? Like, they still have so many young guys that it made no sense to go out and get these guys and sell a promising prospect and early picks. They're kind of relying on Zach Werenski to play at a Norris level again, which is something that I do think he can do, but I don't think it's going to be enough to sustain Columbus. So I guess we'll have to see what happens this year. I don't know. I think that it was a stupid trade.
And that was really the only notable move that Columbus made. They did re-sign Ivan Provorov to a 7-year, $8.5 million deal. Interesting to say the least. They also re-signed guys like Isaac Lundestrom. They re-signed Voronkov, which I think is a good contract. I'm not going to diss them for that. But that's pretty much it. They didn't really do much of anything else besides that. I'm not really mad they didn't do much of anything, but it's just weird because the trade they made, you feel like there'd be more to that, but it was just like they literally just like did Colorado a favor, basically. I thought it was pretty weird. But anyhow, I think they are a low-end C, high-end D, unfortunately. I'm going to go at C- for now. Maybe you can sway me here a little bit like you do a lot, but I don't know. It's kind of a meh.
Yeah.
Team.
I'm probably going to go D here.
Oh, really?
Just kind of because how I said, this team's young. They were building their core. You signed Monahan last year to go play with Goudreau, and obviously we all know what that happened. So, you made your old splash last year, and you go out this year and you get a 33-year-old on a 1-year deal. You get a 29-year-old who's playing fourth line for 3 more years at $2.5 million, which isn't bad by any means. Or sorry, 4 more years, which isn't bad by any means. But you gave up an early pick, you gave up a mid-round pick, and you gave up a promising prospect at 20 years old. I just can't get behind that, especially when a lot of your future is 22 years old or younger, and it just makes no sense to me to do that. So I'm going to stick with a D. And then on top of that, you locked up $8.5 million to Provorov when I don't think it's going to help. I don't think he's going to help you as much when.
I don't know about that.
I don't know, but whatever. That's my stance. I mean, C- is still a valid grade. I was between a D+ in that area, but I'm going to go down to a D, I think. But if we wanted to go D+ as a collective, I'd be down with that.
I'll stick with C- here. I think that's, it doesn't really matter, honestly. All right, moving on then. From Columbus to the New Jersey Devils, who didn't do a ton either. They did make some moves. I'm not going to say they made 0 moves. They actually, and I know we talked about this in the other one, they acquired Thomas Borderlow from San Jose in exchange for Shane Bowers. Borderlow really kind of fell off a cliff here in recent years. Never got to the potential he had with Michigan. They also traded away Eric Holla over to the Predators in exchange for Hansel and a 4th. So nothing too serious there. Holla was a middle sixer. He's in the last year of his deal. Devils free up some cap space. I wasn't really that big of a hater on that, to be honest with you. They did make some moves, though, in terms of on the back end and just overall in signings. They brought in Connor Brown to a 4-year, $3 million contract. They brought in Kalen Addison, who was a player who's bounced around the league a lot, to a 1-year league minimum deal. They brought in Evgeny Dadonov to a 1-year deal worth $1 million. And that's pretty much it. They brought in some depth guys as well, but they mostly brought in players to just kind of help out with the depth, more or less. You bring in Addison, he's going to be a 7th D. You bring in Brown, he's going to be a 4th liner like he was with the Oilers. You bring in Dadonov, kind of the same thing. I think, to be honest with you, the moves they made, they weren't incredible, but they were still solid. So what did you think about the Devils and what they did?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They're kind of in a crappy situation, I kind of see, from a cap perspective right now.
Oh, yeah. They don't
I think the moves they made were good, which were things that they kind of had to do. But here's where things are going to get quite tricky for them. Is Luke Hughes is not signed right now.
Yeah.
And they only have like $6.6 million right now.
Well, the way Hughes has been playing, he might be worth that amount of money, or even a little bit.
I think in arbitration, I think he'll probably get like 5.5. So I think that will help the Devils for sure. But as far as that, I mean, there's just so much money tied up to guys that are just not playing to that level in a sense. Like they got $4 million locked up to Brendan Dillon. They got $9 million locked up to Dougie Hamilton, which I don't think is bad, but I mean, Dougie's playing second D pairing behind Brett Pesce, which kind of sucks when your second D man is making $9 million. Not exactly something you want to see. And the Timo Meier contract just never worked out. So it just sucks for the Devils that they got some money tied up in spots that just they honestly shouldn't be. And then on top of that, Jesper Bratt, who's, don't get me wrong, he's a great player, but making 25,000 or 125,000 less than Hughes, I don't see it.
Yeah.
And it's just a tough situation when you have Jack Hughes, who's been unbelievable kind of since his crappy start to the NHL. He's been unbelievable since that $8 million contract kicked in, and it sucks that you're wasting this cheap, budget-friendly contract in years where, you know, Jack Hughes is in his prime, making a good deal for you, very, like, team-friendly deal. And it just kind of sucks that they haven't done anything with it because they just keep finding themselves in bad or mediocre contracts. So there's still a little bit of work that will have to be done next offseason for sure. Obviously, we have to see what Luke Hughes plays out at. For the Devils' sake, I think they're hoping that they can at least have $1 million wiggle room to kind of figure some things out there. But they're not in like the worst situation imaginable because they still have Kovacevic on injured reserve. So once he gets back into the lineup, they can send, I don't know, Nemec down or try and send Dillon down and hope that someone claims him off waivers, right? Like a playoff team who needs someone. But I don't know. The Devils are in kind of a weird situation, but with how they kind of address the offseason, I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it either. I think that the Devils did what they really could do. They don't really have much options. Luke Hughes is a problem for the future. We'll have to see how that goes. I would give their offseason grade because I really do like the ads of Connor Brown and Dadonov. I'm going to give it like a B-, in my opinion. Like, they didn't do a lot, but the ads they made, the depth pieces they brought in, I think were good ads. And I think that deserves some credit. So I'll give them a B-. Nothing too crazy, but still good.
Yeah, I can get behind a B-.
Okay. All right, let's move into the next team here, the New York Islanders. You could argue the Islanders had the best offseason of any team, not because of what's going to happen next season, but because of the future. Obviously, they drafted Matthew Schaefer. They actually signed Schaefer to a contract yesterday at the time of recording of this podcast. So they signed Schaefer to his ELC. Very good ad there. He's going to be exciting to see on that back end. But they also made the big notable trade with Montreal, where they acquired Emil Heineman and 2 first-round picks, which became Kashawn Aitchison and William Eklund from the Canadiens in exchange for Noah Dobson. Now, we'll get into the signings here in just a moment, but how do you like that trade? I love that deal for the Islanders.
I think that's a good trade for the Islanders. I mean, Dobson, yeah, he's under 25, so it kind of sucks to lose him, and he's been such a good player for the Islanders for so long, and it would have been amazing to see a Schaefer-Dobson pairing. I think that would have been absolutely electric for the Islanders. But with the draft picks that they made with those 2 selections, on top of getting a pretty decent player, I don't mind that at all. I mean, I absolutely love it for the Islanders. You look at the 2 guys they got in Kashawn Aitchison. That was close enough, right? We'll give myself that.
Yeah. Yep, sure.
And then And then Victor Eklund, who I loved Victor Eklund. I kind of talked about him a lot during our like draft previews and everything like that. So I was a big fan of him. So they got two of the guys they were pretty high on my board, and then they got Aitchison, who's just a physical defenseman, an absolute just menace out there. He's a scary guy. He is a player I would not want to clash heads with, and we'll get into the other signing that they had, but I mean, I absolutely love that trade for them, and the draft picks that they made with those two were just absolute home runs.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I just love that deal for the Islanders, honestly. The signings they made, they signed Schaefer, they signed Eklund, both of those two players to ELCs. They brought in Maxim Shabanov to a 1-year, $975K deal. He was from the KHL, one of the top free agents there. They brought in Jonathan Drouin and David Riddick to 1 and 2 year contracts, respectively. Drouin 2 years, $4 million. Riddick 1 year, $1 million. They also brought in guys like Ethan Bear. They brought in Tony DeAngelo. They re-signed Alex Romanoff to an 8-year, 6.25. Interesting, I guess we could say, but not the worst I've seen out of this offseason in terms of signings. And then they also re-signed Maxime Displikov to a 2-year, $2.5 million deal as well. So what were your thoughts on the Islanders signings at this point?
Pretty much the same as I thought with their draft picks. I think that they were all really good. I don't have a lot to gripe about them. They got the top KHL prospect who was rumored to be going to like a few different places, and I know Philly was one that early in the year he was supposed to go to, but
it was like confirmed, I thought, and then all of a sudden it wasn't. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, I was like, oh, nice. We got top Russian free agent. He's going to come play with Mishkov. It's going to be great. And then it's like, nah, you're not happening. It's like, oh, well, I just got my hopes up for nothing. But I think it's good for the Islanders to get him. It's nice that they got Schaefer signed, so I think that kind of crosses him off as being a college potential guy.
Yeah, that's happening now. That can't happen, though.
No, so that's officially gone. But we will be seeing potentially him going back to Erie. I don't expect him to be NHL day one. Maybe they get him for 9 games, but I don't think he plays the whole season. Just because last year he only played he played under 20 games because he got hurt, his collarbone and everything like that. So I expect him to get a little bit more game ice time under his belt. But you never know. Maybe he absolutely lights it up in the preseason and what I just said becomes irrelevant, right? So we'll see what happens there. But I do like the thought of Matthew Schaefer. So we'll see what kind of happens there. But I was a big fan of their offseason for sure.
Yeah, good offseason by the Islanders. I think just like they have shaped their franchise in an almost completely different way. There's still going to be a couple of years of pain, but their prospect pool and their overall future, just because they got the first overall pick, is very bright. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to give them an A+. I just think everything they did was pretty much right, honestly.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you there. I'd give them an A+. So
love it. All right, let's move on. We're over the halfway mark to the New York Rangers. The Rangers made a few trades that we're going to talk about, and also a couple of signings as well. Nothing too crazy on the signing front besides 1 or 2 players. The trades, though, they traded away Chris Kreider to the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for Kerry Torrance and a 3rd-round pick. I thought that deal wasn't too bad. That's a good move, getting rid of cap space. They did the same thing with, I guess, Keandre Miller. They got him out. They shipped him off to Carolina in exchange for Morrow, a 1st and a 2nd. Very good return there by the Rangers. Again, looking at it from the other perspective, it's a very good return for New York. Honestly, I think the trades that they made, they look pretty good. So what do you think about the deals that the Rangers did on the trade market?
Yeah, I mean, there were trades that they kind of had to do. They didn't really have much of any other options. They had to clear out cap space for a couple of other guys. They had to, figure out signings for a lot of their rookies and just everything like that. So, or not their rookies, for guys that are already on their team. So, yeah, I don't even know any of their rookies. So, I mean, yeah, they did what they had to do. Not exactly, the the greatest thing imaginable, but I mean, the Scott Morrow trade, like acquiring him for losing Keandre Miller, great. Love that. They trade away Chris Kreider. They get a prospect who could turn out to be something, could not. Who knows? We'll find out. Also acquired a pick for him. So, I mean, I think they're kind of looking at more of a retool right now. I think that's the direction they're going in because I think they still want to try and make playoffs this year. So I don't think they're going all into a rebuild here.
I think they will.
What?
I think they will make playoffs. I'm going to be blunt with you.
Yeah.
I think they make playoffs. I don't think they're in a retool or anything. They make playoffs.
No. I mean, like
1 year retool.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like this offseason was like their retool. Like they're not going into a rebuild. They're just went into a retool quick in the offseason, made some moves, got a little bit of depth, added some players, got some picks for the future to maybe help out their prospect pool down the line, or use those picks and get some guys, right? But
yeah,
I mean, not a horrible offseason, but I mean, kind of a disappointing season from last. So I think that, there should be a huge chip on a lot of guys' shoulders here this year.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely something you're going to need to look at for sure. They also re-signed, the only really notable one they brought in was Vladislav Gavrikov from the LA Kings. 7x7. That's a very good deal. He'll play alongside Adam Fox. That's a very good signing, and that's going to be a guy who's already a top pairing D. They also brought in Taylor Radish to a 2-year 1.5, so I like that as well. But what did you think of those two signings in terms of just how they're going to impact the team?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like him. I like the Gavrikov re-signing. I mean, he hasn't been anything of like an offensive weapon or anything like that, but he's been very good, very trustworthy, kind of in the defensive zone. So not too bad for him there. $7 million is not. It's a lot of money to ship out for a defenseman who doesn't really get points. But when you look at kind of him from like a defensive standpoint and everything like that, it kind of makes sense. He still puts up a decent amount of points, and he's going to be playing with Adam Fox, which will definitely help him out there. And then Taylor Radish, he's kind of been a guy that's bounced around a lot, I kind of feel. I guess he's only bounced around to like 3 different teams, but whatever. But I mean, yeah, I don't mind it. I think that the potential was kind of there with him. He was a 2nd-round pick. So we can kind of see what happens with Taylor Radish and kind of move on from there. But I mean, I think for 1.5, it's a good signing for them, and he's definitely a retool type player that you'd grab if you were able to clear some cap space.
Yeah, I like what the Rangers did. I think, again, you can have your qualms about how they handled certain situations, but on paper, the moves they made were very good. I'm going to give it an A, honestly. I think they had that good of an offseason, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm gonna go A-. I completely agree with you with that. I think that last year, kind of our biggest, or at least my biggest, I think we might have all kind of had the same thing, was they weren't helping Shesterkin out a lot. And I think that they went out and they addressed that this year. Gavrikov, a little bit more defensive. Morrow, who can play a little bit more defensive. And I mean, when you look at holy crap, when you look at the Rangers, they have they have an abundance of right shots. Most of their best players outside of Gavrikov are kind of on the right side. So kind of helps them out there. So yeah, I don't know. I think I like their offseason. Good retool on the forward end and good upgrades on the defensive end to really help out your franchise goalie who's making $11.5 million. All
right, let's move on now to the Philadelphia Flyers. Here we go. This is going to take some discussion. Let's start off with the trades. So first and foremost, they acquired Trevor Zegras from the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for Ryan Poehling, a 2nd and a 4th. I mean, again, Carter, Carter loves Zegras. He got the Flyers Zegras jersey, which Carter looks fake as hell, but anyways.
I honestly couldn't give less of a shit.
I know that, but I'm just telling you it's a fake jersey, just so you know.
I know.
I really do like the ad of Zegers. It's a low risk, high reward. He's not getting paid that much. He's in the last year of that deal. If he does really good with Michkov and them, I think that that's going to be very exciting. And then losing Paling sucks, but I honestly think that he will fit in good with the Anaheim Ducks. That's the only notable trade they made, and I know you're going to talk a lot about it. So what are your thoughts?
No, I'm not going to talk too much about it. I do like the ad. I think the potential is there with Zegras. So it's definitely one that I'm intrigued to see this year. I'm intrigued to see him with Michkov. Finally gets him a guy that has a lot of skill on his line. I feel like when he was kind of in Anaheim, they didn't really give him a lot of skill guys to work with. And when they did, he performed, but then for some reason they didn't like him. So they moved him around, kept putting him with guys who, no disrespect, but like put him with like Ryan Strome. Ryan Strome is not the point getter that Michkov would be, right? So I think, when you put him with guys like Michkov and Konechny, I think it'll definitely help him. It'll definitely help them out because he is unbelievably skilled. As I kind of said with Ehlers, how he brings a lot of attention to him with like his speed and everything like that. Zegras brings a lot of attention with his creativity, his puck skills, and his passing. So I think that's definitely going to help open up lanes for Michkov, who, as soon as that puck's on his stick, it's in the back of the net, right? Same with Konechny. Konechny's really good with that too. So I do like the addition of Trevor Zegras. I hope he starts the year on the first line. And it's nice that we don't have Tortorella anymore because this has been a move that I've been wanting to do for forever. But of course, Torts probably would have been like, fuck no, this ain't happening.
He probably cock-blocked it multiple times during the season. So
yeah, because this has been like rumored for like a while. And it's like, no, it was actually going to happen like 3 years ago. But every time Torts are just like, not a chance.
Nah, I'm good. No. Michigan's ain't real. Anyways, moving on to the signings that Philadelphia made, and they made a good amount of them. They obviously re-signed Cam York to a 5-year, $5.15. They brought in a lot of players, that being Dan Vladar on the back end as a goaltender. They brought in Dennis Gilbert, Noah Juleson, who could play full-time roles. They re-signed Tyson Forster to a 2-year, $3.75. They brought in Christian Dvorak to a 1-year, $5.4. I like most of them. I think Dvorak, there were some people who were saying that was the worst signing of the whole free agency. I was like appalled. I was like, it's a 1-year contract. Like, we're acting like we signed Dvorak for 3 years. Like, it's not that bad. Is it a little bit of an overpay? Maybe, but it's still not that bad in my opinion. He's coming here with the new coach, Rick Tocchet, who we often forget is there. I don't know. I think it's going to be a really good deal. But overall, Philadelphia, I think they did really good on all their signings. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the Dvorak signing, as like shocking as it was to be like, whoa, Dvorak, $5.4 million. It's like, well, it's a 1-year deal. He's 29 years old. He's a center. He can play left wing. Like, he's a guy that you can kind of throw into your lineup and for playoff teams. And, maybe we throw him on that second line on the wing or the second line down the middle and move some guys around and whatever, right? And maybe he finds his footing, performs great. Boom, we get a first-round pick for him, right? Boom, that helps the rebuild out a ton. But I'm not expecting a whole heck of a lot from him. But if he can help fetch us something good at the deadline, I won't be too mad about it. Vladar, it's nice to kind of have a somewhat decent goalie. Urson is super shaky. Fedotov is also super shaky.
Yep.
Vladar can sometimes be super shaky. Kolosov, I don't even know. And Bjornsson, we're going to find out. So it's nice to have somewhat of a goalie and see what happens.
Will be the backup.
What?
I said never forget when Carter said Carson Bjornsson would be the backup goaltender for the Flyers.
Oh, yeah, I honestly would still stand by that until we sign Vladar.
He's going to be in the ECHL. You are a psycho.
He will not be in the ECHL.
If he's in the ECHL this year, I'm going to be running you up with that take all season long while he's down with Reading, and I'm talking about him. So, yeah, I just want to put that out there.
You know what? Honestly, fine. If he is in the ECHL and he ends up making an NHL roster and he goes down as the greatest Flyers goalie of all time.
Okay, I didn't fucking say that. I said, you were saying he was going to be a backup next year. I'm like, dude, you really want to put a backup.
You're preying on his downfall, dude. You're preying on his downfall. I hope he listens to this, and if you ever ask him for an interview, he's like, "Oh my gosh, you're the guy that was preying on my downfall. Let's get the handsome, super beautiful looking Carter, who is super high on me and absolutely thinks I'm an unbelievable goalie, to interview me."
Yeah,
and then you'll be like, "Wow."
He's definitely high on you, all right. That's for sure. Jeez. I'm not hating on him. It's just a crazy take. And anyways, I think Philadelphia, I really like what they did all around. I think I'm not going to be super biased and give them like an A, but I think they did really good. I'm going to give them a B plus. I just think that like a lot of the moves they did, we're going to have to see. There's risk to most of their moves, but honestly, in terms of the young future of this team, they did a pretty damn good job. So I'm going to give it a B plus.
I agree. I'm going to give it like a higher end B plus, just because I think the Rick Tocchet signing is really good.
Oh yeah, well, I've heard about the Tocchet signing too. Yeah, Tocchet.
Yeah, I don't want to move it up to like an A minus because I think there's a big gap between like an A minus and like a B plus. So I'm going to give it like a higher end B plus. I think they had a very good B plus. So yeah, I think they have a lot of youth on this team, which is great. Made some good additions, made some questionable additions that will look a lot better once kind of the season gets underway and we get to the trade deadline, and boom, we're shipping guys off for picks, players, prospects, whatever you want. I think they'll look a lot better.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on to the Pittsburgh Penguins now. The Penguins made a couple of notable moves. In terms of the trade market, they did a lot of trades, but nothing really crazy. They obviously dealt Nedeljkovic to San Jose. They acquired Matt Dumba from Dallas along with a second. They also got Artur Shilovs from Vancouver in exchange for Stillman and a fourth. That's the best trade of them all. Shilovs was a Calder Cup champion, and they got him for pennies on the dollar. So a very good deal there by Kyle Dubas and the Penguins. But apart from that, not a whole lot of moves on the trade market. We're going to mesh that in, though, with the signings. They brought in Justin Brazeau and Anthony Mantha are the notable players that I saw who they acquired. They brought in a couple other guys too, but nothing really too crazy. So, Carter, what do you think of Pittsburgh's offseason overall and just how they're looking like one of the worst teams in the NHL next year?
Yeah, it sucks. Like, a lot.
Not the move. The moves don't suck. The team sucks.
No, that's what I mean. It sucks that this team is going to suck. The moves they made, I can see why you'd get excited over it, but I wouldn't. A lot of the moves, they're not big on me. Shilovs, he's a backup. Cool. He's 24 years old, which is kind of about the time you expect the goalies to start kind of performing. Jari's been shaky for forever.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think there's a lot of moves that they're going to have to make this season. I'd like to see them, as much as this would suck, I'd love to see Malkin be a Penguin for life. I think that their best course of action should be to try to trade Malkin at some point this season. Just try and get a little bit of value out of him while you can. As much as you'd want him to retire a Penguin, you can't, unfortunately. Same kind of thing with Crosby. As much as it would suck to lose him, it would suck for the last, he's got a 2-year contract, but I'm assuming he'll probably re-sign somewhere after this contract's up. But it would suck to see the last 3, let's say 4 years of Sidney Crosby just go to waste. For what?
Yeah.
For battling for first overall picks? No, we want Crosby to go out on top. Same way we wanted Ovi to go out. We want both those guys to, in their last few years, be fighting for cups, not be fighting for lotteries. All right. So kind of sucks. I wish that Dubas could put a good team around him. And it looked like they were going to do that, but they just looked like crap. And then everything just went downhill. Erik Karlsson should probably be traded within the next year. Retain as much salary as you have to. I don't care. Run your team off of league minimums, but they got a lot of work to do in these next 2 years.
I keep almost falling backwards on this chair. But yeah, I gotta say, like, I think the moves that they made, they weren't like they were like moves, but they weren't like bad moves either. They were just kind of mad. They were moves to make the team not good, and I think they're doing a good job at doing that. Honestly, I don't think Pittsburgh did anything bad, but they didn't do much good. I'm going to give them a C. I think they're just kind of in the middle for me. They might be the first team that is in the middle out of any team that we've done so far, and that's saying something because I feel like a lot of the teams we've done have been in the middle. But Carter, what is your grade? I'm getting tired.
I'm gonna go C minus just because I hate the fact that they're wasting Sidney Crosby.
Okay then. All right, moving on to the last team. You have the Washington Capitals. They didn't do a whole lot. They acquired Declan Chisholm in exchange for Chase Prisky and a fourth. They got a six-back from Minnesota. They signed Chisholm to a deal, but the only other player that they notably really brought in was Justin Sordiff to a 2-year, $825K deal. They brought in some depth players. They made some solid signings like Lyndon Lakovic's a good draft pick, and Milton Gastron's a good draft pick as well. But apart from that, they really didn't do a lot. Carter, you can say your thoughts here, but there's not a lot to speak on.
No, not really. I mean, they're kind of running out with most of the same team as they did last year, kind of in a sense. It'll be nice to see a full year of Ryan Leonard. Why did I say Riley Leonard?
Wow.
That's a bad one.
Wow.
It'll be nice to see a full year of Ryan Leonard. I think he looked very good last year. In the playoffs, I think he performed exactly as Washington, the mantra of the Capitals would be. I think PLD looked very good last year. So I don't think they had to make too many changes. So I'm not too mad at it. They're giving Ovi a good chance to go out a Stanley Cup champion, which I think is exactly like going back to Pittsburgh. That's exactly what I'd want for the Penguins. Unfortunately, that can't happen. So we'll see what happens with Washington. I think they will be good this year. I like the moves they made because there wasn't really a lot of them. Obviously, they didn't have to. Another full year of Spencer Carberry will be really nice for them too. And man, the D core is so nice. I love the D core of the Washington Capitals. And not only that, after next year, the OV money comes off the books. It'll suck to lose Ovechkin because he's still elite. But then on top of that, John Carlson will probably end up getting less money too because his $8 million contract comes off the books as well. So very exciting stuff if you're a Washington Capitals fan for this year and honestly for next year too. So I wouldn't be mad with this team going out game one as a Capitals fan at all.
Yeah, pretty much the same roster. Can't really be too mad about that. It was a good team last year. You don't want to make a ton of changes. I'm going to give it a C just because, again, how we grade things. C means you didn't really do a ton, which isn't a good thing, but it's not a bad thing either. So you get a C for me.
Yeah, I'll go C plus just because they didn't really do anything. So they didn't, and the things they did do doesn't screw them up.
That's true. Yeah, I got a good point there. All right, well, that's it for the Metropolitan Division off-season review. We got the Atlantic next week. By the way, next week is our 3-year anniversary of the podcast, which is crazy to think. But yeah, we'll definitely be doing something next week that's special. But anyhow, that concludes this episode of the NordCast. Carter, any final thoughts?
We're so close, folks. We're so close.
We're about 2 months away. I think Thursday is the 2-month mark until the beginning of the season, which I've been counting down the days in the calendar. So I guess
we're so close to the NHL. We're almost back to football too. Playoff baseball's coming back.
Them Phillies, man. Them Phillies,
man. Looking good. Good.
God. I was there last night for the Schwarber Grand Slam.
Oh, that must have been unreal.
Oh my God. And then they're chanting MVP. Like, I have never felt anything like that in a stadium in my life in person. And I said, like, on my Instagram and my Facebook, I'm like, this is the greatest thing I have ever witnessed live at a pro sporting event. Just seeing that team go is it's August too. Like it's literally the beginning of August and we're seeing that kind of hype. But I said that I'm like, this is the kind of thing you see on TV, but you're never there. It felt unreal to be there. So it was just crazy. But yeah, absolutely insane.
Hey, just wait for Flyers playoff hockey, man. That is
I hope so.
That is something you'll love to experience. I promise you that.
I believe it. All right, well, that'll conclude this episode of the NordCast. Thank you for watching. We will see you guys in the next episode.